I got revenge on my husband by sleeping with my daughter's boyfriend. When a young man is barely 19 years old, his hormones are raging. It's just a way of life. Such was the case with Ricky, who just days before had discovered the joys of sex. He had decided he really liked it. That time was in his old Chevy Camaro, and it wasn't easy to do. The party at the beach had been a blast. Ricky had spent most of the evening dancing on the sand with one girl after another. Since he didn't have a steady girlfriend, he could do whatever he wanted. But even though he was cute, with a tall, slender body and sandy-colored hair, the girls were either with someone or not too interested, so he didn't get anywhere. Of course, being a virgin, he had absolutely no idea how to take it to the next step, and that was part of the problem. As it got colder outside and things quieted down, Ricky headed back to his Camaro. "Hey!" someone called out to him from the shadows. He looked back, and out of the shadows came a small brunette he barely knew named Sissy. "Can you give me a ride home? My friends left without me. Please?" "Sure." Ricky looked at her. She was pretty, not the kind of girl he'd want to date, but okay. She was wearing only blue jeans and a tank top and a light shawl thrown over her bare shoulders, which was no use. It turned out that Sissy lived almost 40 miles away on the other side of town, and Ricky was looking at gas stations the whole way. They had about 2 miles to go when the engine hissed, another 100 feet, and he stopped. "We're out of gas," he muttered. "We can walk from here. My dad keeps a couple gallons in the garage for his lawnmower," Sissy told him. Ricky wasn't too keen on parting with the car. He'd put almost 1,000 into the wheels alone, and every dime he earned unloading boxes at the grocery store went to the engine or some part for his toy. Since he was also in school, that and his car were pretty much all he spent money on. Gasoline was expensive. He could afford about 5 gallons at a time. Right now, he had about $3 in his pocket, and he was 30 miles from any gas station. "This is a hell of a thing," he muttered. "I'm sorry." "Hey, how about you make it up to me?" asked Sissy with a slight chuckle. Ricky looked at her, slightly embarrassed. She reached down and undid the clasp on the halter and smiled, pulling the cups aside. Ricky was young and inexperienced, but not stupid. He had figured it all out. Just as Sissy pressed her body against the steering wheel and her upper body collapsed from behind the roof, a car whizzed past with a roar. It was very difficult for him to do this in his uncomfortable position inside the car, but he managed. Sissy was giggling the whole time, her beautiful breasts bouncing. That was how Ricky lost his virginity, and he suddenly wasn't at all worried about running out of gas. The 2-mile walk to Sissy's house was not easy. The night had gotten cloudy and dark. They could barely make out the black ribbon of the 2-lane road. Finally, they rounded a bend and saw her house. "Man, it's a long way from there," Ricky told her. "Yeah, my dad and mom like it. It's secluded. Dad built the house and we're working on it." As soon as they stepped onto the porch, the outside lights came on. "Where have you been, Sissy?" "You're late," demanded a dark-haired, older version of Sissy. The woman was wearing a huge robe, which she reached up and grabbed the front of when she saw Ricky. "We ran out of gas and had to walk. I'm sorry, it wasn't my fault." "I thought you were with Carol and Jeannie?" she asked, looking at Ricky suspiciously. "I was, but they met some guys and drove off, leaving me there. This is Rick. He gave me a ride home, but his car ran out of gas. Can he borrow some spare gas from his dad?" "Your dad used it in his lawnmower this morning. I know he doesn't have any because he told me to refill the canister tomorrow." She was still looking at Ricky. "Maybe we can call someone?" "I don't know. It's 2 in the morning." Mom looked at her watch. "I don't know who. I live on campus, and I know my roommate is gone." "Campus? You go to school? What exactly?" The woman showed sudden interest. "Medical. I plan on becoming a doctor," Ricky told her. Then he shuddered. The night air was quite chilly. Sissy's mother had noticed this and was now looking at him with interest. "Really? Doctor, are you? Why don't you go to the house where it's warm? We'll work something out." So Ricky found himself in an unfamiliar house, talking to the mother of the first girl he'd ever had sex with in his life. From the way the woman looked back and forth, Ricky was pretty sure she knew it too. It didn't help that Sissy yawned and said she was going to bed, leaving him alone with her mom. "Well, I guess I can go back to my car and—" began Ricky. "Nonsense. We have a spare bedroom. You can sleep here tonight, and in the morning we'll run into town and get you some gas, okay?" Ricky didn't really feel like leaving his Camaro in the dark, and with $1,000 wheels. He gathered up all the returnable beer and clapper cans he could find to pay for them. They were cool. So he was led to a nice room. The bed was full-sized and soft. "Sleep well, sweetie. I'll see you in the morning." She smiled at him and left. It struck Ricky that he still didn't know her name. But once in bed, he was asleep in seconds. When he woke up, something creaked outside, and he saw it was getting light. His head ached from the beer he'd drunk. One of the guys always managed to grab some for beach parties. What was that noise? Then he realized it was chickens. Chickens? Where was he? And then he remembered he was far outside of town. Ricky rolled off the bed, looked down. He had a morning rush of excitement and was in desperate need of the restroom. He needed to find the restroom, and he had absolutely no idea where it was. Ricky walked maybe 3 steps, the door opened, and there stood Sissy's mom. She caught him off guard, standing at full attention. "Oh dear, I'm sorry, I came to wake you up. Breakfast is ready." She looked down at him and grinned as he quickly tried to cover himself with his hands. "Relax, I've seen men before." Saying that, she walked away and closed the door. "2 doors to the left," she shouted through the door and then giggled. Jesus, thought Ricky. This weekend was getting weirder and weirder. He poked his head out into the hallway and saw no one. He reached back and grabbed his pants and walked down the hall. "Hey!" Sissy poked her head out from behind her bedroom door when he returned. "Good morning," he told her. "Hey, check it out." She swung the door open, and he saw that she was unclothed. It had been very dark the night before, so Ricky hadn't been able to get a good look at her, but this time he sure did. Of course, it instantly made him tense up again. With a giggle, she closed the door. Sighing, Ricky walked back into the bedroom. It took a few minutes, but he got himself back to normal. Sissy's mom was busy in the kitchen. Sissy was already sitting there. She grinned as he walked in. Food. Lots of it and delicious. Ricky at this age could eat a horse without much effort. "What's your mom's name?" He leaned over and whispered to Sissy as her mother left the room for a moment. "Catherine. My daddy's name is Henry." "Where is your daddy?" he asked, shoving another forkful of cutlets into his mouth. "It's Sunday. He always goes golfing on Sundays. At least for the last few months." Oh. At that moment, Catherine returned. He thanked her for the food, telling her how good it was. She only smiled. Ricky was relieved to see his car standing untouched as they drove into town. At the gas station, he filled up the 2-gallon canister, put it in the trunk, and headed back out. Catherine took a different route, which surprised him since he was farther away. He realized why when he saw a sign for a golf course. Catherine stopped, surveyed the parking lot, then, feigning annoyance, drove on to where Ricky's car was parked. He poured fuel into the tank and fiddled with the engine for a few minutes before it started. After waving goodbye, Catherine and Sissy drove away. Ricky returned to his room. Because of classes and having to study, Ricky didn't call Sissy until the following Saturday. He thought about taking her to a movie, and then maybe she would want to do some more of what they had been doing in the car. "Sissy isn't home. She's out with her girlfriends," Catherine told him. She then started asking questions about his plans, how he was doing in school. It was like they were longtime friends, and they ended up talking on the phone for over an hour. Then she apologized for walking in on him when he stayed there overnight. "It's okay. Stuff happens." Ricky managed himself, feeling his face redden at the memory. "Okay. I didn't mean to embarrass you, but God has been favorable to you." She giggled like a schoolgirl. Ricky didn't answer, his tongue suddenly slurred. "And anyway, you can stay here any time you want." She hesitated, waiting for an answer. "I understand I was once young and shy, that's fine," she added. "I'm not really like that. I mean," Ricky managed. "Call me again sometime, you're interesting to talk to." Catherine hung up the phone. Rick sat looking at the phone in his hand for a few seconds. Catherine didn't seem to be much of a talker. She was unlike any mom he had ever met. The next morning, the phone rang. It was Catherine. "How are you doing?" asked Rick. "Henry's off pretending to play golf. Sissy's out with her friends again, and I'm bored. Why don't you come pick me up? Maybe we can go for a ride in your fancy car." "You want a ride? With me?" wondered Ricky. "Yes, I do. I like you. You're fun to hang out with." "Well, okay. I'll be there in about an hour." He really didn't know how to say no. Catherine came out of the house as soon as he pulled up. Ricky was surprised to see her in a tank top and white tight shorts. Her tummy was flat as a pancake and golden brown, and he realized she must be spending a lot of time in the sun. When she slid into the bucket seat on the passenger side, he saw that she was wearing traces of makeup, and her hair was nicely styled and flowed in waves almost to her shoulders. Ricky blinked. Catherine looked like she was getting ready for a date or something. "Let's go to the lake. It's usually not crowded, okay?" She smiled. Ricky glanced at her. The tie-dyed top was showing off her large, tanned breasts. He took a deep breath. One look at her was enough to start his attraction to her, and he thought it was best to keep it under control. For a mature woman, Catherine was very sexy. "Drive faster," she asked. "What?" "I want to go fast, really fast." Okay. She wanted to go fast. He could do that. Rick pressed the gas a little harder. The big engine responded with a guttural growl. "Faster," she urged. Ricky was now at the point where the tires complained as he rounded the corners. The last 2 miles, before the road ended at the lake where the local paper company was located, were almost straight and slightly uphill. The place was usually deserted, as there were hardly any fish in the lake. "How fast are we going?" she asked. Rick glanced at Catherine, one hand resting on her chest, her index finger at the top. It looked like she was touching herself. "I don't know," he told her. "Find out, go," she pronounced. Ricky gave the gas, and the car tore forward. There were no curbs here. The road was wide and fairly flat. He glanced at the speedometer as it sped past 100, then 110. A little more, but he had to slow down, or they'd end up in the lake. He pulled over and parked so they could look out over the still water and turned off the engine. Turning around, he saw Catherine looking right at him. "Let me," she muttered as she buckled her seatbelt and reached for his zipper. At the same time, she somehow pulled off her top, exposing her heavy breasts. It was almost exactly what her daughter had done a few nights ago. Just when he thought Catherine must be sunbathing in a very tiny bathing suit, he felt himself freeing himself from his pants. It was as if this was all happening to someone else. This was a beautiful woman in her 40s and the mother of his girlfriend. At least he thought, maybe Sissy is his girlfriend? The thought flashed through his mind that he shouldn't do this, but he felt so good he couldn't even speak. Then he felt himself feeling the rapture of Catherine's body, and they began to make love. "Come on, let's go outside." She opened the door. Ricky stepped out too, trying to pull his pants up. Catherine pulled the tight-fitting shorts off her hips. She wasn't wearing anything else. Ricky was delighted. Her body could not compare to that of her youngest daughter. Reaching out, she took his hand and led him down the bank to the soft green grass. Ricky found it very hard to walk, struggling to hold on to his pants with one hand. Catherine pushed him onto his back, reached down and quickly pulled the rest of his clothes off. She started muttering something. At first, he couldn't figure out what it was. "That asshole. Cheated on me, it's going to be... Oh, God. Fix him, she repeated over and over. After a few moments, Catherine fell silent. Ricky felt something wet and reached up to wipe his shoulder. He realized she was crying quietly. "What's wrong?" he asked her. "Nothing. I've never felt anything like this," she told him. Then she got up and pulled away from him, turned and ran toward the lake. He saw her wiping her eyes as she ran. Ricky didn't understand anything of what had just happened. Diving into the lake, she swam for a while, watching him, then stood in a shallower spot and washed herself. Ricky sat and watched her as she came out of the water to him. Her mature body was in impossible shape. Her heavy breasts were beautiful. She walked over, stood at his feet, and looked down. "Okay, let's do it again," she grinned. Ricky did just that. They lay like that for most of the afternoon, getting up and dressing quickly only when they heard the sound of a car pulling up. A man in a white pickup truck pulled up, wearing an orange vest. He looked at them strangely, but said nothing. They got into his car and drove off. "That was wonderful, but I don't seem to understand anything," asked Rick, slowly pulling back down the road. "It's Henry." A sad note appeared in Catherine's voice. "Henry?" He knew that was her husband's name. Guilt overwhelmed him at the thought of her being married. "Yes, golf," the asshole told me. But his idea of golf turned out to be some cheater from down the street, and he's been going there on Sundays for months now. "Oh," said Ricky. "Yeah, and I figured if he could do it, so could I. And after I saw you when you stayed, I decided it was going to be you." "You had sex with me to get back at your husband?" "Yeah, I guess so. I'm really sorry about that. But it's not just that, I really wanted it. I've never cheated on Henry, not once. I bust my ass to stay in shape and look good for him, and he goes and cheats on me with some 30-year-old fool." For a few seconds, Catherine was angry, but then her expression returned. "That was good, Rick. Really good. I want to do it again." She smiled and patted his arm. "So, you're going to leave him?" asked Rick, trying to change the subject since he was now uncomfortable. "I probably should, but no. He cheated, which means I did too, and either Henry will get over it or I'll take him to the cleaners. It's his own fault. I've been completely faithful to him so far." She looked at Ricky. "What about Sissy? What will she say?" "I put her on birth control pills a long time ago, Rick. I saw the signs and there was no stopping her, so I did what I thought was right. I hope she was good." She laughed. Then her eyes became moist again. He wasn't an expert, of course, but he could recognize emotional instability when he saw it. Rick looked up and saw that they were close to her driveway. A large white pickup truck was parked in the yard. "Should I let you back out?" he asked her. "Pull up," she said. He parked and went to open the door, but she beat him to it. She slid into his arms. "Kiss me," she demanded, and Rick did. He saw the curtains on the house sliding open and caught a glimpse of a man standing there. Then the man disappeared from sight. Rick hoped the man didn't have a gun or anything like that. "Thanks for a good time. You're very good. If you ever want to, give me a call and let's do this again." Catherine smiled at him. Rick nodded, got in his car, and drove off. About a mile down the road, he saw a car drive by with Sissy sitting in the front seat between two young men. She was kissing the one who was sitting in the passenger seat. He sighed and drove home. About a week later, his cell phone rang. Looking at the caller ID, he saw it was Catherine's number. "This is Henry, Kathy's husband," a deep male voice said. "What can I do for you?" asked Ricky. "Kathy and I had a long talk. I guess you had a good time with her, huh?" "Hey, listen. It all just happened. I don't know why. I'm going to leave her alone." "Relax. That's not the point. Katie told me she liked it. I know she was trying to get back at me, but she really enjoyed it. I could see that." Rick had absolutely no idea what to say to that. "Anyway, if you two want to be together, that's fine with me. I just want her to be happy." "Well, thanks, I guess," Rick managed. Rick pressed the button to turn his phone off and picked up his books. This whole situation was weird. He couldn't forget her, but he wasn't about to get into it either. Some things were better left alone. And yet he had a funny feeling that leaving it alone wasn't going to work. The end! Subscribe to my channel! Thank you.